Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Toonami Absolution Sessions, previously known as Talkin' Toonami. In this episode, we will be discussing more of the comments and questions people have regarding the Adult Swim Toonami block. Thank you and enjoy. Hello, listeners on the internet. Welcome back to Talkin' Toonami. I am your host, Sketch, and joining me once again, we have John Paul.
Hey.
Christopher Soul.
What's up?
And we have added another person to our panel, the illustrious Firecrouch.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow, that's
okay.
That's
you
could be more excited, like.
What do you want? What do you
want
want me to say?
I don't know.
You could say like, "Hey guys, what's up?" You know.
Oh, that's too predictable. I've got to do something that's going to shock people.
Some people are having odd feelings about DeMarco basically admitting that the goal of Toonami for him and Sean was to play cool stuff.
Which is, I guess, all we could really ask for, right? Because if it was not cool stuff and it was uninteresting and boring, well...
Generic shonen number 376.
Yeah.
Exactly. As far as I'm concerned, that doesn't ruin my childhood at all. That just makes it that much cooler.
Yeah.
That ruins your childhood to suddenly understand that, oh, you mean they just put this on because they wanted to? No, that's pretty cool. You usually can't pull that off in the television industry.
Well, I mean, they pretty much accomplished what they set out to do. They're cool stuff, except, I don't know, I would have rather seen Slayers than a bad dub of Card Captors, but that's not their fault, really. You know, they did their best.
I think
Card Captors, a mystical adventure.
I think Kids WB and Cartoon Network were being run by the same people.
Yeah.
That's how that thing, Kids WB Toonami, came about.
Which people want to say that this is a bad lineup. Yeah, I don't think I want to see the Nightmare Room or whatever it was called.
They're not playing Scooby-Doo. If they're not playing Scooby-Doo and Generation O, it's Toonami.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you?
Now
only Toonami kids love it.
Yeah. Now that Toonami is once again, like its previous Saturday incarnation, only airing once a week for a certain amount of hours. It was 4, then it was 2, now we have 3. That's kind of splitting the difference. We have the dilemma of wanting to play a whole bunch of these massively popular long shows alongside Bleach, whereas it's probably better to air shows that are shorter so they can cycle through and not be stuck with the same dang lineup for years and years and years and years. The biggest complaint that I have ever seen regarding Adult Swim action is that it's constantly the same shows. And part of the reason for that is because they've had Inuyasha for how long? They've had Bleach for how long? They had 2 Full Metal Alchemist series. Obviously, it's going to start looking pretty stale if they continue on with long-running franchises. What are your thoughts, Firecrouch?
I just want to say, imagine how things would have gone down if Case Closed was popular. Just imagine what would have happened on that topic. Another proprietor of that, you know, what is the word? What am I saying? You get what I mean. Well, here's my thoughts. I've been thinking about this too. I mean, it's tough. I mean, the 4 most highly demanded shows, according to Jason DeMarco for Toonami, are Inuyasha, One Piece, DBZ, and Naruto Shippuden, just popular long-running shows. And, you know, at this point in time, it's only 3 hours, it's on at midnight. Now is not the best time to have another long-running series or 2. I think it's better to just wait around once, if and when it gets more popular, they get more money, and they can expand into more hours. Because the more hours you can have on Saturday night and once a week, the more you can do with it, the more kind of variety. And I think it's not a bad idea to have a couple long-running series with a bunch of shorter ones that you can cycle through. Just they're going to have to be really selective about it because it's going to be on, no matter how well it does, as far as we know, it's just going to be once a week. And I don't know if that's going to leave room for a lot of reruns or anything like that. But there's nothing wrong with having a long-running series. But they have there's a bunch of really good ones, a bunch of popular ones, but they're going to have to pick the best of the best, the most popular of the most popular. And it would really suck if they just had the safe series, because part of Toonami is the variety and exposing new types of shows and getting an eclectic taste. Basically, that's what I got to say. So I'd expect if and when they'd ever get the rights to air maybe Naruto, One Piece, Fairy Tail, if they have maybe 4 solid. If they were to expand to 9 o'clock and have a bunch of hours to air new content, I mean, just the most popular ones that people really think of first would be, that's enough, I think. And for anything else, that's a little less popular, well, it's tough out there. They got to be really selective, and they're already really selective. And I think I've made my point.
Good. How about you, Soul?
For me, I feel like with especially the longer running shows and the ones people really want. I mean, people want DBZ, they want Naruto Shippuden, even One Piece, especially. I think with Naruto, for example, and even DBZ, those shows, the pacing of those shows ends up being so bad in the end. Airing those specific shows once a week, it's just not really going to work. The only way you could really feasibly air Naruto Shippuden, One Piece, even DBZ, I feel like you could throw that on Saturday nights. It would kind of suck if it was just one episode a week. But the thing with DBZ is it is a finished series. It does have an end. With Naruto, people are still, the hardcore Naruto fans are watching that show subbed, and that's almost 300 plus episodes already with Shippuden. And One Piece, I think most of us here are big One Piece fans.
Oh yeah.
I think with One Piece, the only way One Piece is going to air on this new Toonami, I feel like, is started at season 4. That's 57 episodes or so. It's a nice place to kind of introduce new people to the show, and it everybody knows those first 20 or 30 episodes of One Piece don't really pick up all that well until you get into the later stuff. And even with the Daisy Back stuff, I feel like that'd be a nice place to really get in the nitty gritty of stuff in terms of showcasing how great One Piece is. That's really the only way it will work. And then I think the only other long running show might be Fairy Tail, and I think that would be a good kind of good next to Bleach, because it's 100 something episodes in. It's not 200, 300, 400, 500 episodes right now, so we could play catch up with that. With, but otherwise, in terms of just the overall variety, I think it's like Firecrouch said, because of the time frame we have right now with those 3 hours and just throwing on those long running shows, people are going to tune out sooner or later, because either they're just going to get bored of that stuff, and even trying to bring in new fans to it, just like, oh, this show's, I think that's the problem with Bleach, really, for people who are just tuning in. This show's 200 something episodes in. How am I supposed to really understand what the hell's going on outside of the topic of Bleach? But it's with those long running shows once a week, it's just going to be real hard.
Well, it's working for Bleach. I don't see why it wouldn't work for Naruto and One Piece and Fairy Tail.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah,
that's true, but I think it's the overall factors of like you said, it's Toonami. They always mix things up for the most part. I feel like Bleach right now is Adult Swim Action's DBZ
Yeah.
in and of itself, because it's gonna stay there. And I don't have too many more thoughts on it really. Could they air those long running shows? Yeah, eventually, I feel, but I think it's nice to have stuff like Deadman and Casher and so on, these short, 26, maybe even 50 episode series, but just to mix things up.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's just kind of like, yes, eventually we can get there with some of those long running shows, but I think right out of the gate, not so much. I think and like I said, the pacing issues with Naruto Shippuden and DBZ and so on might hurt those shows later on. Outside of the nostalgia factor with DBZ anyway.
Shippuden kind of has I wouldn't like a nostalgia factor that's just a couple of years early.
Uh-huh.
If that makes any sense, because I mean it's been a couple of years and there's been people following it for a while, and if they want to watch the dub, if they've been following online, I mean, maybe they'll want to watch quote unquote reruns of it. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like in terms of a new show to bring in nostalgia, Inuyasha the final act would be kind of perfect for that.
That would be perfect.
And I think I'd mentioned it to John and Sketch before. That show specifically, it's probably going to be better than watching Bleach for most of us. And yeah, it has that certain nostalgia factor. I've never watched the subbed episodes of it because, I did follow it for a long time on Adult Swim Action, and I kind of want to see it finished dubbed. So it'd be nice if they would air it, but
the only thing is there's not going to be consistency with some of the cast members. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think the big thing is what Kagome. I think I've heard some lines from this the voice actor who's doing Sesshomaru. He sounds like a good replacement for David Kay to an extent, but I think we're getting way off topic here.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Sorry.
Rambling on too long, so.
Yeah.
Do you care to elaborate, John?
Honestly, pretty much anything I had to say, Soul pretty much said it. I'm definitely gonna have to agree with him about the issue of pacing being a problem, and there is also the issue of where they don't really have enough room, to play these long shows because it's gonna be the same thing over and over again. I honestly I could not say much more than what both Firecrouch and Soul have said previously, so I can't go on any further than that.
Okay. Well, my thoughts, and first of all, since we kept bringing up DBZ's pacing, there is Dragon Ball Z Kai, which would work considerably better at a once-a-week slot than the original DBZ dub would. So, just going to throw that out there. But it's still 98 episodes. And likewise with Yu Yu Hakusho, which is 112. They're still nostalgic shows in a sense. They could certainly find new audiences, but it's probably better to go with shorter shows for the time being. I'd love to see Yu Yu Hakusho again. That's a great show, and it could easily find audiences again.
And it would be nice to see, Funimation have those new masters rebroadcasted for you.
You can broadcast it in HD. You can't do that with old Dragon Ball Z.
I just hope if they do that again, they make sure the SD broadcast is not squashed.
Yeah, that's kind of sucked. I think if I can speak one more time about it, with DBZ, I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity, really, because if they were to air the original Dragon Ball Z, there was a whole Funimation Blu-ray thing that would have been a great kind of cross advertisement for it. And then to kind of end my own original rant on it, and I think some people had mentioned it on some assorted message boards, with having those long-running assorted shonen shows, you'd have oversaturation, and it just would stagnate the block, really.
That is a good point. Remember in 2006... Well, go on, Firecrouch.
I just want to say the Dragon Ball Z Blu-rays are canceled. They can't promote those.
Well, yeah, they can't now.
Yeah, that's Well, yeah, that's what I meant though. Like, yeah, it was just such it was a missed opportunity. If they were still in production, I feel like that would be, and I think even
Yeah.
Funimation would kind of think about that. Hey, we could throw these on. Yeah, this would work. So, but like I said, that's kind of
It's not that
gone.
big of a deal. Dragon Ball Z is going to sell regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's way too
So,
many
well-
people that adore that show, so
Well,
TV
not so much
exposure
this
isn't that
series.
important. The question is if it would get good ratings, and I imagine even old busted DBZ would get ratings. It did on
It always did.
the
It
April
always
1st
did.
night, so that's one thing to consider. But you also have to consider how expensive that show would be. Right now, they have 3 shows in premieres for the first half of the first run, and then beyond that, you have 130 to 3, and you really gonna put Dragon Ball Z on that late? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, probably not.
I mean, if they already owned it, they could put it on that late, but to buy it
Yeah.
in order to play it that late is just terrible. Don't do that. That's a horrible waste of money, considering how much it would cost.
It would have to be something like Outlaw Star or Trigun, even to air, next to Bebop or something for that last
Yeah,
is.
I'd be
last
okay
quarter.
with that. I would be most okay with the first season of the Big O.
Yeah.
Same thing, honestly.
I would like to see Hamtaro again.
That would honestly, if there's
But that's
another
another long-running show.
Oh, no. If there's another there is another April Fool's and Toonami is still around, they should have the whole entire blog play Hamtaro.
No. They play Hamtaro the whole night, and then for the last time slot, by the time everybody turns the TV off because they're sick of seeing Hamtaro, they play an hour of Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh, that's a low blow, man.
That's a nice
I think
callback.
my good idea. Yeah, what's up?
Go ahead.
No, better idea. Everybody wants Dragon Ball Z, right? April 1st, throw on the big green dub.
They couldn't get the rights to that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that'd be pretty funny.
Didn't you guys read the card recently? Adult Swim. Somebody was like, "Hey, next April Fools, you should play an entire season of golf with Toonami bumpers." And they responded, "Be careful what you wish for around here."
Oh god.
God.
Tonight on Toonami, golf, and more golf.
And Tom just sounds ridiculously bored.
Oh boy!
Can you imagine the Toonami bumpers for the golf?
Oh man, they totally have to have Tom do a golf clap.
Or Tom make a joke about Tiger Woods or something.
Oh,
it'd be great if Tiger Woods was an action cartoon, because this shit's boring.
No, that would be more of a hentai, I think.
A lion wouldn't cheat on his wife, but a tiger would.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay.
That's something Tom would say.
It would be.
Oh god.
If my friend hears this, he's gonna kill me for using that joke.
Oh god, we better not put this in the actual.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now.
With the long-running shows, there's definitely a possibility for good ratings, but when they're working with essentially only 2 hours of worthwhile time to run premieres or run fresh material, there's just no space for that. They could maybe squeeze in one more, and if they're going to squeeze in one more, I think by all rights it should probably be the final act. And otherwise, I say wait until they have more space.
Yeah,
there is
exactly.
the possibility that they won't ever get more space, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I personally would not mind watching One Piece 1 episode a week. Hey, it was good enough for Japan.
Exactly.
But
it's good enough for me.
That's my advice. I just really want One Piece back on television. I don't care what the capacity is.
How do you guys feel about if they started at season 4?
Let's see.
I wouldn't complain. but I don't know if it's the best idea.
I mean, there is some recap footage that does show up
That's
during
true.
the filler stuff that was.
They also recap right as they're at the when they're jumping off the bridge in Enos Lobby.
Well,
Right.
there's a difference between just airing like a season as a quota as some kind of fresh start, and then selling your Dragon Ball Z, where even though it's really just the middle of a story, it's being
Exactly.
marketed. It's being marketed. No, it's being marketed as it's not a new season. It's specifically being remarketed as a fresh start, a new series. A season that's in the middle of the story isn't. It's it's
Yeah,
not.
I guess that's true.
I mean, it could work. I mean, if they did like special recap things, but I mean, I don't care about catching up, honestly. Like, it makes more sense. I mean, if you're like someone that's just getting into it, like, old fans will just want to watch. They'll want to watch it from the beginning. I wouldn't mind watching it from the beginning. It's just, to me, it would be reruns, and it makes more sense for new fans to just start at the beginning.
True.
And yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just think it'd make more sense to start at the beginning. And we'll have to play catch up no matter what. It'll just be a couple more years if we were to start season 1.
Right. Which I think we can comment on that on the next topic anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of,
Yeah,
Space,
you certainly can.
Yeah.
So I think the general consensus is they could definitely air those long shows eventually. And hopefully eventually comes. Eventually they'll have the money. Eventually they'll have the time. We'll see. Now all we can do is wait and watch.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting people off.
Yes, you do. Dang it! Stop.
We all do.
I'm trying
We all
to do this
freaking do.
orderly.
yeah, we all do it.
I mean, if they did well enough that they actually started up at 9 p.m., that would take up the entire Adult Swim Saturday night. And if they went from like 9 to 3 for new content, that's a lot of half hours you can go through. And obviously, you wouldn't have a lot of space for encores. I mean, maybe they could do something like what they did years ago where they didn't do encores. They would just air like a Voltron or Asteroid rerun. They can maybe rerun like an old show or something like that. Like maybe, I don't know, I could care less if Dragon Ball Z is in the main time slots. They could put Dragon Ball Z in there. They could put Inuyasha. I don't care.
They could use those later slots for long shows just to throw them on. But once again, if they don't already own those shows, it doesn't make much sense financially.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes sense financially is if they get those earlier hours, and then they could throw on an hour of One Piece, an hour of Dragon Ball Z, an hour of Naruto Shippuden. They could do all 3 of those and continue from midnight with Bleach and the rest.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, but it's gonna take a while before they have the kind of money to do that. So we'll see. But for now, I'm cool with the short shows. I like cycling through shows sooner. I particularly think it's a good idea for them to air more of these 12 to 13 episode shows, because that's just the right amount for what is that? That's about 3 months. You can't hold people's attention forever. I mean, 6 months in of itself is kind of a lot to keep people's attention. A whole year, forget about it. Beyond that, it better do really, really well, or people are just gonna drop like flies. And it's also cheaper to get the shorter shows. And seeing as we're working on a pretty tight budget right now, I thought it was a very good choice on their part to get Deadman Wonderland as opposed to another brand new 24, 26 episode show. Our next topic is the very commonly asked question: why can't we have Toonami on Cartoon Network daytime anymore? What are your thoughts, Firecrouch?
When you say Cartoon Network daytime, you mean just on Cartoon Network proper, not Adult Swim?
Yes.
It has to just do with how things happened, I think. Like, this whole Toonami relaunch wasn't planned. It was literally just an April Fool's joke. I remember Jason said on his Twitter, like, it was not an experiment. It was just going to be an April Fool's joke, and they were going to leave it at that, and they got such a big reaction, they went with it. So, par for the course, you do a Toonami on Adult Swim. It sticks with Adult Swim. I mean, it's just basically rebranding it. It would just be kind of... I mean, I would like to see it back on Cartoon Network daytime. It'd be nice if they could have, like, Toonami on Adult Swim and Cartoon Network, like different versions of them, like the younger skewing stuff on the day, and then it's stuff at night. But that would be a whole kettle of fish. That would be hard to pull off. And the other thing is, the audience that was originally on for Toonami is grown up now. I mean, that's the core fan base that supported this whole relaunch of Toonami in the first place. Toonami was the kind of thing that really had broad appeal among different age demographics because it was no Magoozy. It didn't talk down to kids. It was cool. It was just pure coolness. The kids could look up to how cool Tom was or how cool Moltar was, and adults would just say like, this guy is cool. I want to chill with this cool robot. So yeah, it was just consistent amounts of cool, and it can work on Adult Swim or Cartoon Network. But I mean, we've already got like these action anime shows for like the core anime fans, the core shonen kind of stuff that isn't toyetic. It's already been playing on Adult Swim for a while. It's not like Cartoon Network where they just took it off. So I think it just seems like a more natural transition that they just quote unquote go with the flow, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So like I said, it'd be nice, but that's just the way things are gonna be. That's just the way things are going forward.
Okay. What are your thoughts, John?
I feel that, it's kind of, I feel most of the people that care about Toonami now are probably the ones that generally are, now they're older. And I mean, considering how long Toonami was on the air before the cancellation, that demographic just in general skews much older. So honestly, it makes more sense to focus on the demographic in which grew up with Toonami as opposed to taking a risk about a younger demographic in which may or may not actually work out for them.
When it was on Cartoon Network, it was more of the younger skewing, and then on Adult Swim, it's obviously the older skewing. I mean, it worked for kids before; it can work again. It's just that I think it's just the result of the April Fool's joke. It would be kind of weird to just reintroduce some block that was canceled by Cartoon Network in the first place and then made way for a whole rebranding of the channel. And this is really just something that started with the fans, and the fans of Toonami are people that, like you said, grew up with it.
And I think the only time like you really had this kind of segue to like the slightly younger audience into the more teen-centered audience was back in 2004, 2005. When you had stuff like Dragon Ball GT, and then you had Gundam Seed, and then it led into Inuyasha and Wolf's Rain, when Adult Swim Action and both Toonami were kind of in their prime on Saturday nights. And then I think after Gundam Seed got replaced, they threw on Rurouni Kenshin, which I think that was like one of the best segues into Adult Swim Action. So, but now I guess I'll go on in terms of my thoughts on it. You have all these general anime fans who have gotten to the point where with Adult Swim, you're really not going to see anything really edited. And if they threw on even Naruto and even One Piece weekday afternoons, there's going to come to a point, stuff's going to be kind of, to an extent, pretty edited. It's really kind of iffy now because how kind of lightly edited Naruto was back in 05, 06. But now they're kind of the...
because as Cartoon Network went on with Naruto, Viz started editing less and less to the point where the only issue really was flowing blood, and basically they were allowed to get away with just about anything on Naruto.
Yeah, but Naruto Shippuden is quite a bit more violent at times.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, which would almost lead into that whole why Toonami was moved to Saturday nights to begin with, was because how more violent those shows were. And I don't want to compare Naruto Shippuden to Rurouni Kenshin, but in terms of bloodshed, it's kind of that type of comparison there. And
oh yeah,
with those shows, like I said, there's the editing issue. There's the overall factor of with it on weekday afternoons, the audience demographic that wanted, it's like you guys have mentioned, the audience that wanted Toonami back to begin with, they're going to be at work, they're going to be in college, or they're probably doing something else weekday afternoons anyway, which would be like, yeah, it would be just relaunching Toonami for its original audience, for kids, what, 8 to 12 tops, whatever.
It's like 9 to 14.
Right. I think if anything, I will. It's one of those. Hopefully, if this experiment continues to be successful, I do hope we kind of see a return of like the original Midnight Run. If Adult Swim ever wants to give up any time slot weeknights, at least for just like an hour, which would be great. It wouldn't have to be at midnight. It'd be at 1 or even 2 a.m. But throw anime on for at least an hour weeknights. I think that'd be great. I think that's the only thing we're going to see out of Saturday nights, if anything. But in terms of just it coming back to Cartoon Network weekday afternoons, I think we'll get more into that subject really later on. It really just has to do with who's running the show now and what audience they're skewing for anyway. So, like I said, I'll kind of leave it there. I think Sketch, even and yourself, Firecrouch, and we all kind of have some overall thoughts on the current overarching management of Cartoon Network right now. But like I said,
That I don't think we should get into that.
Well, I think the current Cartoon Network is mostly okay. They've made some good choices. They've made some bad choices. My one major beef with them, and this relates back to why we're not going to see Toonami on Cartoon Network daytime, is just they don't play action cartoons in the afternoon anymore. They're lucky if they show up on weekday mornings, but for the most part, it's just weekend mornings. That's it.
Yeah.
That's where all the good action shows are. And that's not a terrible place for them to be. It's kind of a nice revival of the classic Saturday morning for a lot of people. But at the same time, those shows could be doing so much better on a Wednesday or a Thursday night or on a weekday afternoon. So I'm kind of bummed about that. And that's the main reason why Toonami was not going to happen on Cartoon Network daytime. Cartoon Network doesn't want to play action cartoons in the daytime. Certainly not on weekdays.
How well does DC Nation and even Thundercats and a few of the other action cartoons that they even have outside of what the Toygenic stuff, with like Ben 10 and even the Clone Wars? I think Clone Wars is premiering Saturday mornings now, isn't it?
We don't know where it's going to premiere in the fall, but I'm guessing Saturday morning.
Yeah, which I'm like, how well are those ratings really even doing? I haven't kept up with their Saturday morning ratings.
Well, they're getting
honestly.
killed by Nickelodeon, but that's nothing new.
Well, and I think we know why, especially right now, but yeah.
Always lose to the SpongeBob. Though I feel like interest in Korra among older viewers has actually helped like DC Nation's older viewer demographic rise up, and he's like, oh, well, I can watch Young Justice Invasion before The Legend of Korra, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Makes more sense to me than watching a whole bunch of SpongeBob.
Yeah.
But that's getting off topic. Basically, the answer is Cartoon Network wanted nothing to do with Toonami. So that's why they didn't bring it back. The people who canceled Toonami still run the show. That's all you really need to know. I hope that if this Saturday night Toonami actually attracts younger viewers, that Cartoon Network will consider doing more action programming. Other than that, I'm hoping that the next guys like action cartoons more.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if there was like a Yu Hakusho situation where if Toonami on Adult Swim really was successful enough and they played One Piece and Naruto and Cut and they were doing really well, they would consider like, well, they wouldn't make sense to bring back Toonami to Cartoon Network, but if they did something along the lines of maybe doing an edited version of One Piece of an edited version of One Piece, an edited version of Naruto for Cartoon Network proper. I mean, that's just a big if. I don't
That's
know
an
if that would work
interesting
out.
idea. They haven't done a whole
Yeah.
lot of dual runs other than
Yeah.
Gundam Wing, but that was
Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty darn
years
revolutionary
ago,
at the time.
and that was years ago as it is. So,
I would be all for
which
that, you know, something for the kids
yeah,
and the adult fans. That's the ideal scenario. They don't
Yeah.
which
probably won't do that though.
No.
can we go off topic for just a second in terms of One Piece though? Because I've mentioned it. I think I've mentioned it on Toonzone and a few other places. One Piece on Nick is kind of the ideal thing, but I think it comes down to later on down the road in One Piece, basically with like Ivanko and the new Kama stuff, where it just becomes, how are you going to air this to kids?
They're going to have to air it PG.
Yeah, or even like it's gonna be kind of iffy. Where
I don't think they could even get away with it in PG, honestly.
Yeah, it's really gonna be hard. Which isn't. I mean, in Japan that's fine, but it's just
That's how One Piece is like a square peg in a round hole for America.
Yeah,
You can market it for kids for however long, but once you get to a certain point, good luck, buddy. You might as well just market it to older viewers from the get-go.
Yeah.
That might have been well, 4 kids had One Piece, so, you know.
Yeah. That's all. It's like, yeah, if anything, yeah, it does, I think you belong on Adult Swim's Toonami. Like I said,
it's like the best
slot
of both worlds. You get One Piece on Toonami, and it's not censored.
Yeah. I guess, if anything, yeah, the whole how far behind we are kind of sucks to me, but I guess, as you guys have said, hey, we'll catch up eventually, so.
Oh, no, we probably will never catch up, but that's
We'll
okay.
never catch up.
Yeah, yes. So I think, for me, as long as we at least finish NS Lobby, I think I'll be moderately happy.
Well,
That had terrible pacing.
there's oh yeah, that's the other thing. If you
Yeah.
start at that season, the pacing of Enos
Yeah.
Lobby just might kill it.
Yeah, that's true, but still one of the better seasons, though.
Oh yeah, great story. Very moving stuff. That's where One Piece really started to show that it was pretty emotionally charged.
Well, then again, the Whitebeard stuff had kind of iffy pacing, too, though, so.
The whole show is starting to have iffy pacing at this point. Not quite Naruto Shippuden bad, but
oh, hey, new shonen Toonami, Toriko. I'm just throwing it out there. It's kind of censored Japanese wise, but I feel like that show needs more exposure. It's really good and it's really fun, and it gets really intense with its action. But I feel like
do you think maybe that could work on Nicktoons?
But I feel like what's that damn that animal company PETA would have a problem with that show.
Well,
I don't.
But nobody
The
cares.
PETA wouldn't. No one would care what PETA would have to say about that show. I don't even think PETA would know about. I don't think Koriko would get popular enough for PETA to notice.
Yeah. I don't know. This kind of just worries me because of that. It's always in the back of my mind. It's like, but yeah, I feel like I kind of feel like hopefully after GT is over on Nicktoons, maybe, hopefully it opens up for something more. But oh well, I think we were off.
That's a whole nother kettle of fish.
That is a whole nother kettle of fish. Okay, so now that we've talked about why Toonami's really unlikely to ever come back to Cartoon Network daytime, I guess the question is posed then, why did they ever have Toonami if they're so opposed to it now? And I think the answer is different management.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't even think we really need to go into that much. I mean, it was a different time.
That was back when the anime boom was on the cusp. And
yeah.
Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z and to a lesser extent Sailor Moon really ushered in a huge, well, let's just call it a wave, The wave of anime that followed. I believe in an interview they said something along the lines of, well, Dragon Ball Z worked out, and then it was basically we could get, like, whatever.
Which I think, if there's anything I would want to ask Jason, was where were those numbers? Because there's that, I don't want to call it an infamous promo, where's that 61 million fans, can't be wrong, like 61 million fans? Well, that's probably true for Dragon Ball Z in general, but that's a pretty bold statement, guys.
Yeah, maybe 61,000.
Yeah.
Well, definitely more than 61,000, at least a million. 61 million fans, that's... Wow, I don't...
It's a portion of its worldwide fan base, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That could be it.
It still kind of sounded funny when I keep hearing that, and I'm like thinking of just overall viewers.
That's crazy, go nuts. But DBZ for a long time held the #1 telecast for Cartoon Network. It got passed up by one of the Ben 10 movies, and then that got passed by one of the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. But it held it for a while.
I mean, back in, Toonami was one of the catalysts for the anime boom in the first place. I don't think there would be an anime boom if it was for Pokemon and Toonami in the United States. But, the thing is, when Toonami first aired, it was, people don't realize, like, Toonami's, when it first aired, started out somewhat small, like Toonami is now, maybe to,
Yes.
quite possibly a smaller extent.
This is exactly true. This is the wonderful comparison that can be made. Jason DeMarco said, they picked up Voltron and Robotech because they liked them and they were cheap. That sounds oddly familiar.
The thing is, it's like Cartoon Network in general started out cheap. It was like owned by Turner. They had all these Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers cartoons. They would just rerun those popular classics, and then eventually, as they expanded, like any channel, they got into original content. Now they wanted to start an action block. They didn't have any original content for an action block, so they just had these old shows, and they said, like, hey, we like these anime shows, let's put those on. And it took off. Hey, it was old in Japan, but it was new here, and it was getting great ratings. And we have our original programming, we've got our acquired content that's doing great, let's go with it. It's a little different now. They still pick up a lot of acquired content, but it's not the kind that's going to get a lot of ratings. It's just kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess from Canada? I don't. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. They still have a lot of acquired content, but it's basically sink or swim. If they sink, they don't stick around.
Yeah, and with Cartoon Network now, I think all of us can agree they have at least 2 or 3 really, really good comedies, and that's pretty much it. And then Young Justice, maybe DC, and Green Lantern, but couldn't really get much into it.
Thundercats.
But, yeah, Thundercats.
At least for now.
I guess nobody. Yeah, for now. But I don't think anybody's even could have imagined how well Adventure Time and a regular show even could have done for a Cartoon Network, and hopefully that just we get more good cartoons on Cartoon Network again.
I actually heard Cartoon Network's ratings have gone up, and they're still not in the lead, obviously, but I've heard their ratings have gone up while Nickelodeon's have gone down.
Yeah, that is very true. They commonly beat, well, maybe not anymore, but in recent times, they were commonly beating Nickelodeon in 9 to 14, and even 6 to 11 on certain days of the week, like on Monday, Tuesday, pretty much any day except Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And most of the times, what shows are airing at those times?
SpongeBob.
Well, in terms of Cartoon Network.
Oh.
Adventure Time, regular show.
Regular show. And
yeah.
Gumball's pretty fun, too. I do like that show.
Oh, yeah. I like Gumball. And along with that, they play a lot of Johnny Test.
Why?
Because it gets ratings.
I remember they used to cycle through that within a week, and they would still have some, like...
Good thing it has more episodes now.
Yeah. It's just like...
I do have a quick question. Maybe you can answer it, Sketch.
Oh.
Do you know how well Cartoon Planet's doing?
I think it's doing moderately well, actually. They've mentioned in press releases moderate gains over the time slot last year, so I guess it's beating Star Wars.
Well, that's good, and I do always see, whenever it's on, I see on Twitter, you see Town Chicken or Dexter's Lab or whatever, those shows end up trending whenever Cartoon Planet's on, so.
Yeah, but I feel like buzz for that has really died down. And that's the exact reason why it was probably best not to air a bunch of old Toonami shows and nothing else.
Exactly.
Because people are like, oh, cool, this is back. And then they'll watch a couple of weeks and then they'll go, nah, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
This is why you can't trust what people want, because people don't know what they want.
Look at Toonami.
Yeah, true that.
We want old shows, then they don't watch. We want new shows, then they don't watch. What the do you guys want?
They don't know.
Keep it on, man.
They don't.
Dragon Ball Z was new at one point, and it was new and different. That's why people loved it. And that's what people. Don't you understand?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
back then, Dragon Ball Z was fresh. Well, they
to
played it to
extent,
death, but it was still fresh because they played new episodes.
Yeah, well, they reran DBZ into the ground, and people still watched. People bitched, but they still watched.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's always the case. It's like, oh man, I'm so tired of Dragon Ball Z. Oh, what the hell? They took Dragon Ball Z off.
Yeah.
That is exactly how it went.
Move on a little bit further down the line.
That's also how it worked out with Inuyasha, by the way.
Yeah, they made that joke a lot, too.
Okay. Well, now we talked about why Toonami existed. Now we can talk about our theories on how Toonami got canceled in the first place. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, John.
First? I think what happened was a combination of management change as well as the ratings had started to dip. DeMarco even commented about how that piece even said ratings had part of the reason to do with that. I feel like there was definitely a major change in what Cartoon Network wanted to focus on when there was that management change, which kind of happened because of an incident with Adult Swim, which I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with.
Oh yes, the Aqua Teen bomb scare. Yeah, that's a load of crap.
And it was noticeable. There was definite change in how the network was being handled after that point, and I honestly mean, I don't know what else to say. Reasons why, I mean, it affected Toonami. It affected Cartoon Network's action shows. It affected among other things, and it's just. I mean, it was probably they were looking at the ratings. They were thinking, these aren't as well as they used to. Along with the management change, they just took it off.
What are your thoughts, Soul?
I mean, I think John touched on it a bit. I mean, the biggest reason in and of itself was the shift in management, the change in management, and then the skew towards a younger demographic, and then putting money into stuff outside of acquisitions and so on and so forth. I mean, there was, the biggest thing, I guess, to kind of focus in more, they just did not, it could have been a ratings dip due to Naruto's filler episodes, but you always have this consistent idea that, oh, Naruto killed Toonami. No, we didn't.
I always see that, and I don't understand the logic there.
Well, first, I actually heard the filler episodes did really well, even if they were filler.
They did.
Oh, especially
the episode Naruto dies.
Yeah.
That made the top 10 with 12 to 17. Gee, I think people wanted to see Naruto die.
What was funny was about that was it was basically that had no advertisement for so long, and it was just kind of on autopilot, and then the episode came about, and it just did really well.
Yep.
You want to know what I think about the whole Naruto. Okay, first of all, is it? I'm assuming it's some kind of conspiracy theory. I've heard it thrown around a couple times. Never actually read about it or watched listened to some commentary on it on YouTube. I'm just assuming the whole idea is like Naruto killed Toonami because they depended on Naruto for the big ratings of Toonami, which is understandable. It was basically their Dragon Ball Z for Saturdays. It was Dragon Ball Z. It was the Saturdays for when Toonami moved to Saturdays, if that makes sense. And I don't know, they like kind of, I don't know what's the word, abused Naruto to the point where it's like, I don't know, they compared ratings to every other show, and every other show on Toonami didn't measure up to Naruto, and expectations went this way and that way. I don't know. That's
Which
what I guess.
And I think that is probably true to an extent, in terms of like other shows didn't live up to Naruto's expectations from just the general management of Cartoon Network. Oh, the show's not. One Piece isn't doing as well as Naruto. Oh, are these new episodes doing better than the show ever did? Funimation says so. Oh, but Cartoon Network still pulls it off? What the hell?
On the subject of like Naruto, like on Cartoon Network, I feel like I feel like with the management change as well, I feel there might have been some sort of dispute between Viz and, Cartoon Network and this whole thing. Because if you recall correctly, you know how Blue Dragon was briefly like on Toonami, and then like it was on their Saturday morning block, and then all of a sudden like it disappeared. But the weird thing about that is it disappeared from their Toonami Jetstream block. So I'm kind of wondering like if I'm wondering if there was like a dispute between like, money between Viz and, Cartoon Network. And I know this is off subject, but it's just very weird. And then eventually it showed back up, and I'm wondering, there's a rumor that, Naruto got the axe because, like Cartoon Network wanted more money, and then, but
You mean Viz wanted more money?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cartoon Network might have wanted a piece of the merchandising.
Yeah, excuse me about that. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that. Look at this from Cartoon Network's perspective. From 2005, fall of 2005 until late 2007, Cartoon Network had put so much money into Naruto. They were basically getting it all of its exposure. Granted, the manga still sold pretty well, but the sales went through the roof when the show hit TV. From Cartoon Network's perspective, they made Naruto a success, and Viz wasn't going to give them anything for it. Whereas Viz actually probably wanted a lot of money for Naruto Shippuden. And Cartoon Network thought to themselves, well, we could keep relying on Naruto, or we have this Star Wars show coming in 2008, and we have this new Batman show, and we have our own original series. So, you know what, Viz? Take Naruto. We don't care anymore. If you're not going to give us a piece of the pie, we don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head in terms of the Naruto thing. So
I think the best evidence of that is that they went and got Bakugan, and they got the merchandising rights for that. And even though that show got moderate ratings at first, and then eventually the ratings just got terrible, it made them money, so they kept it on.
Pretty much.
Which, are they getting any rating? Do they have any merchandising rights for, say, Beyblade Metal Fusion or whatever it's called, or Metal Fights?
Actually, I don't think so. I actually that's kind of one of the oddities. Like, I don't know how that's airing on there. And Cartoon Network hasn't confirmed this on their end, but I guess they're also picking up Scandigo later on. So I'm kind of wondering like how that's going to work out as well.
I'm almost thinking maybe they think it's a safe property because it's got a merchandise line going through it, even though maybe they don't own it. Maybe they got the acquisition for cheap. They didn't have to pay too much for it. They said let's fill in this time slot or something like that. Maybe it would just be better. Even though if this show is a high-profile show that's, if you give it the right push, it will, like, get in potentially bigger ratings than your own shows. I mean, maybe it just makes more sense for Viz or Funimation to sell it for cheaper or something, and, I don't know. And maybe it's working for I don't know how much they sold Dragon Ball Kai for, but Nicktoons seems pretty happy with how Dragon Ball Z Kai has performed, and that's completely an acquisition.
Which is funny because if it was an issue of merchandising, obviously, Kai, Nick doesn't seem. There's no real Dragon Ball Z merchandise really to be made right now outside of what the orange brick DVDs that seem to be selling more than Kai's uncut DVDs. It's really just
video games too.
Well, that too, but it just seems like ratings is what's doing it for Nick on Nicktoons.
Nick just wanted something of value on Nicktoons, and they saw the opportunity in Dragon Ball Z Kai, and they went for it. Basically, the same was with Naruto Shippuden and Disney XD. Disney saw a viable property that they could get good ratings from, so they paid out the nose for it. And treated it okay for a while, but we all know how that ended.
Maybe it's just Cartoon Network and Disney maybe spoiled Viz, and Viz just wanted more. I don't know.
Honestly, though, I don't think that's the case because, Disney seems to be refusing to air any anime properties that they actually own on their Disney XD block, despite them being action cartoons. Like for instance, they have Hero Man, but they're not airing that for whatever reason. And my guess it was supposed to air at the same time as Japan, and it month before that happened, they decided not to, and then
wait, when did Disney get Hero Man?
They're a co-producer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Corboy, who worked on the simulcast subs, said apparently Disney was a co-producer on it, and the original plan was that they air on Disney XD, and then it didn't happen for whatever reason because they pulled out for broadcasting it.
I guess Naruto Shippuden might have been a test then to see how well anime would have done on Disney XD, and obviously it didn't meet Disney's expectations, and that's why it got pulled.
Yeah, and we know why. Probably buying out Marvel and gaining that Marvel library was the other clincher.
Yeah.
I would think. So, my general thoughts on what got Toonami canceled in the first place, definitely the management. The management saw Toonami as a block that mostly people outside of their target demographic cared about. They could have rebuilt it for children, as has been done many times, but it was kind of like fighting the tide. Why bother if kids really weren't that into it, and the older fans were just gonna complain even more, like they did when they made Tom 4.
I'm glad you went into that, which I guess was the last thing I wanted to wrap up on this. Was Tom 4 and that fourth era, that last iteration, also what kind of led to its demise? Because obviously William Street wanted to kind of go for and not William Street, because obviously, why I'd gather a bit of thoughts on it. And just in terms of Cartoon Network wanted to aim Toonami at a younger demographic. I think Jason has defended Tom 4 and that whole redesign, but
they like
I think
Tom
he just
4.
hasn't wanted. Yeah, I think he hasn't really wanted to really say too much else about it. But obviously, they wanted to redesign. They wanted to aim Toonami at a younger demographic, and that's what came about with.
Which is a funny thing to consider, because the very night that they introduced that new look, they played a Hellboy movie, TV-14.
And then I think what they aired, the Condor, which had a lot of language in that.
Yeah.
Golly gosh, you think?
That was those movies and Naruto getting increasingly more violent just didn't quite mesh with the look that they were going for.
Pretty much.
I don't think they ever really explained what they were going for. They just kind of did it.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to rebrand it on the 10th anniversary, but what their actual intentions were, I'm sure the intentions were to lighten up the place, to make it more friendly to kid viewers. That never has particularly worked out for Toonami over the years, like Hamtaro, SD Gundam. Yeah, the list goes on.
Otherwise, now we have a more mature Toonami, and if anything, it can only get more mature and more violent, and I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I thought Outlaw Star and Tenji did fine with 6 to 11-year-olds back in the day. Is that the case?
Yeah, they did, but it was a different group of kids.
Yeah, that's true.
That's interesting. I don't know. I think 6 to 11-year-olds these days want to see something that's... I mean, I grew up on a lot of... I loved kid cartoons when I was a kid because they had all this adult humor and sensibility that I didn't necessarily get at the time, and I appreciated it.
Let me finish my thoughts on what led up to Toonami's cancellation. In regards to Naruto Kill Toonami, you gotta look at it this way. When Dragon Ball Z was on, its backup was Gundam Wing, Outlaw Star, Tenchi, Batman the Animated Series, Reboot, quality shows. Naruto's best backup was Bobobo and Zatch Bell.
One Piece did pretty well, even if it was the 4Kids dub. It got good ratings.
One Piece did pretty well, but they also played Pokemon, which I'm sure also did pretty well. And they played Yu-Gi-Oh! GX in 2006. Late 2006, anyway.
And then
they kind of flip-flop between the regular Cartoon Network block and then the Toonami block.
Yeah, that did. Well, it was on Maguzi for a while, and then they moved it to Toonami, I guess probably to spread out the premieres. And that was the other problem. Maguzi and Toonami originally started out quite a distance apart in feel, only sharing Teen Titans, and as time went on, they got closer and closer and closer. And then Maguzi got canceled, and Toonami became, Tom 4 showed up.
Yeah. Tom 4 replaced Aaron.
I think what really burned them on picking up more anime is if you look at their track record from the mid-2000s, from around, let's say around 2004, look at all the shows that just flopped. Dice flopped. Gundam Seed flopped.
What's funny is, I forget if this was during the weekday block, but SD Gundam actually didn't flop. It was just after
they just never played the second season.
Yeah, just after several reruns, ratings went down.
And
even
Rave Master didn't do particularly well, and
if we want to
then they just went and just ruined any chance of Prince of Tennis and Mare doing well by skipping episodes.
Well, hey, to kind of end the whole Cartoon Network and Toonami, the end of Toonami, and especially regular anime on Cartoon Network, IGPX technically flopped.
IGPX more than technically flopped. IGPX absolutely flopped. And if that didn't burn them on getting more anime or making anime, as was the case with IGPX, nothing else would.
Yeah.
I forget, was IGPX supposed to be part of that, Warner anime?
No.
Or was that Powerpuff
It wasn't
Girls
part. It wasn't part of the Turner anime trio, or maybe it was.
It was actually 4, if I recall correctly.
I believe it was before that deal happened.
Okay.
So getting off topic, but anyway, anime wasn't doing particularly well for them. Viz was probably asking for more money to keep Naruto around. Everything else was not doing as well as Naruto. And that's not on Naruto, that's on the other shows for not keeping Naruto's audience interested. And Cartoon Network looked at Toonami and thought, well, we could put our new original action series and Star Wars and Batman on Toonami, or we could just get rid of it and start new. And that's what they did. And if you didn't know, Sean Atkins and some of the people from Toonami worked on that Friday night block. You Are Here, as some people called it. I did enjoy the Justice music. There was a lot of things that went into Toonami's cancellation.
Yeah,
pretty much.
They had to put down Old Yeller.
Can I just say two things, actually? Or Sketches just say in general that, Cartoon Network just doesn't care as much for action shows as
Nope.
they use too. And also, but I mean, I think Sketch told me once he was looking at ratings reports, and One Piece and Naruto, when they were on in their prime, got much better ratings than stuff like Symbiotic Titan and their other action shows they have been making themselves. And
But I don't hold it against Symbiotic Titan.
yeah.
Yeah, let's not hold it against.
Yeah,
And
some of those ratings for Toonami were pretty darn good. If you compare them to some of the comedies now, they're pretty on par. If you compare it to how their action shows have been doing, that's not really fair because their action shows are not treated well. But yeah, they do better. They do better than Ben 10. They do better than the DC shows.
It wasn't just a matter of ratings. It sounds like, it was a complicated thing. And also, I think in general, I think I talked to someone from Funimation about this, is that it would just be nice if there was an anime block on Cartoon Network or Adult Swim that just their main focus was the 12 to 17-year-olds. I mean, that's where the money is, I think, with anime in general. It's a lot of those anime action shows that you get into them when you're a teenager. But
Exactamundo.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next topic is the question, why can't we have Toonami on more than one night of Adult Swim? What are your thoughts, John?
I guess it comes down to money, as well as it's just they don't think at this point in time. I don't think they have enough confidence into it at this point in time. I feel like if it ever would get a weekday run, it would probably be it would be a very small block. It wouldn't be as big as, wouldn't even be as big as what we have currently. I feel that, if we were to get one, we would have to convince that this weekend block is doing well enough that they might consider, expanding it to potentially maybe an hour, like on the weekdays or something like that. But as it is now, I can't see them doing it. Not in the near future. So that's all I can say about it.
What are your thoughts, Firecrouch?
Well, having Toonami on for more than one night, that's way, way, way too soon, as John has pointed out. I mean, it's like he said, this thing is just starting. Adult Swim higher-ups don't know how well this thing is going to do. I mean, they're not people have been planning on not promoting it enough. I think their thing is, if we promote it a lot, it's not like anime has ever been a big thing for us anyway. I mean, it gets people, it has its audience, but it's never been a big thing, and it's, died down. I mean, that's a whole other topic. Like, it's amazing Toonami got canceled and Adult Swim Action stuck around. It just downsized, and, I'm sure it downsized for similar reasons as to why Toonami got canceled. But, they just don't see it as a big deal, and it's going to have to prove itself. And, even if they were to promote, I think the idea is, hey, we could promote it more and it would do better. But, we put in all this, more promotion for it and more commercial bumpers for it. Is it going to work out in the end? They don't know. It's got to have, and maybe it can go on for more than one night. I don't know. It has to be enough content. It has to be enough willingness to do it, confidence. And actually, I wanted to say is, how does Adult Swim generally do on Fridays? Do they have any premieres?
They they have American Dad new to Adult Swim episodes at 10, but other than that, they don't do premieres on Friday. But I think they should, because they do exceptionally well on Fridays, especially later into the night. I guess people are coming home drunk and like, hey, let's watch some Family Guy.
Yeah, I think they tried airing their live action stuff on Fridays, didn't they? Or that was probably Thursdays as well.
Thursdays was live action night, and it does moderately well, at least in premieres. They tried Classic Night on Friday when they didn't think that it would get particularly good ratings, and then they tried the regular block with Robot Chicken, Family Guy, American Dad, and Aqua Teen, and whatever else they were throwing on at the tail end there, and it did great. And I think DVR Theater usually does best on Friday.
Yeah, they showed some weird stuff on DVR Theater. I think they were showing Xavier the other night. I was like, oh,
that show's different.
But I guess I'll lay my thoughts down. I mean, I think it's like I was saying earlier. I mean, yeah, I mean, and as all of you guys have said, I mean, this this current lineup, this current block has to prove itself more or less. And then, yeah, like I said, I hope, yeah, maybe later on down the line, I mean, it can expand even just for just an hour, maybe at 1 or 2 a.m. tops, if they're going to be generous enough to do it. So I think it just really depends on how well the current Toonami does on Saturday nights. That's pretty much how it is. I mean, hopefully, yeah, we do see an expansion, but I think it's just wishful thinking at this point.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I look at the ratings that Adult Swim Action typically pulls in on Saturday nights compared to the weekday ratings and say there's no way they're giving anime more time. Now, part of the reason that anime doesn't do better than the comedy is because it's Saturday, but the other reason is, you think about it, late at night, what are you more likely to watch? A random episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force or Ghost in the Shell? I'm gonna go with Aqua Teen, especially if you're already tired and possibly drunk.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what's good about having Toonami, I mean, it would be, and I think maybe if it could work out, if, like I said, it proved itself to just have Toonami take up the whole Saturday Adult Swim block, is that, a lot of people aren't watching TV on Saturdays, so, even,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get that casual viewer. I mean, the anime fans, like they said, I mean, I read that article about Hulu a while ago, that, they could get anime for cheap, and even though it doesn't get the millions of viewers that something like, I don't know, America's Talent has, like, you have that dedicated fan base. It's always going to tune in to watch it, and I mean that's the case. If a night's going to get low viewership, you're going to have that dedicated fan base. It's going to tune in to watch it. So if you've got
Mm-hmm.
more nights like opportunities like that, then yeah, go ahead, air the anime. I don't know, but so I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be on for. I mean, if they have time to spare and they're feeling generous, and the show can prove itself to have a dedicated fan base beyond Saturday. I mean, who knows?
I would say
and I feel
Bleach
like
has more than earned a weekday slot. It does very, very well, and I'd have to imagine if they reran it on weekdays, it would do even better.
yeah, and I think going into that, that's if you're going to have those long running shows, a weekday slot or well a weeknight slot would be best.
Absolutely. It's not ideal to throw them on particularly late at night, or if they did a
Yeah,
pity play at 4 a.m. That's no good for premieres, but it's something for reruns, something for people to DVR or catch on the occasion. It's certainly better than nothing. But the oddest thing, and this is a wonderful opportunity for Toonami, though it probably will never get this chance, the lowest rated slots on weekdays is usually the 9 hour because there's a lot of competition, and as good as King of the Hill is, you know it's been played. People have seen it. Not a whole lot of people are still watching, particularly against premieres on other networks. There is actually the slightest possibility that they could try anime there and find success. And that would be an ideal time slot for Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto Shippuden, Bleach, rotating those shows in an hour block. Be great. Yeah, I don't see any additional. I don't see weekdays happening. There's people who suggest that they play the Toonami Classics on Friday nights. Sorry, guys, that's one of Adult Swim's best rated days, so you're not gonna get that. But the oddest thing I have noticed lately is Sunday used to be their biggest night. It was the night where usually they still have most of their premieres, other than the live action premieres. Well, no, actually, they do have some live action premieres on there now. But
oh yeah, now
Sunday
more
is not doing very well uh, in comparison, at least for total viewership. Metalocalypse premieres lost to Bleach and Deadman and almost lost to Cashern, and all three of them beat the Eric Andre show. Actually, Eric Andre show that week lost to the entire first run of Toonami. So that means it lost to busted old reruns of Ghost in the Shell and Cowboy Bebop, and moderately less busted reruns of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Not good, guys. Y'all need Aqua Teen Hunger Force in a hurry. Or Robot Chicken.
Well, then again, Warrior Squad must be doing pretty well then for them, though, because they reran that stuff like 4 times Sunday night?
Yeah, they started putting Loiter Squad between Eric Andre and the Boondocks rerun that they put on Sunday now. And I guess that's a better idea than leaving Check It Out with Steve Rule. But
yeah.
that Loiter Squad episode got like one of the lowest ratings of that week.
Yeah.
So, oversaturation, guys. Be careful about that.
Hey, we got Black Dynamite coming, and
I look forward to that.
And season 4 of the Boondocks, hopefully.
Yeah, season 4 of the
sometime early
Boondocks
next
is
year.
coming. And that would be a great lead up to Toonami. Encores of both of those shows would be great in the 11 hour. Good stuff. But the craziest thing is, if they actually moved premieres to all weeknights, they could probably give Toonami Sunday. I know it sounds like sacrilege, and it's completely against tradition, but hey, they played new episodes of The Big O on Sunday.
Yeah.
So,
and where did Bebop
I don't know.
premiere?
It's very unlikely, but it'd be cool. Give Toonami both Saturday and Sunday, and comedy the rest of the week. I'd be down with that.
Wouldn't we all?
I'm not picky. I just want more time. Sorry about this abrupt ending, folks. The audio got cut off at some point, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think perhaps the stop button was pressed. Hopefully that won't happen in the future. I don't believe that happened on the 3rd episode, which has already been recorded. So I'd like to thank you all once again for listening, and thank everyone on the panel, John Paul, Christopher Soul, and the illustrious Firecrouch. Be sure to tune in the next episode when we are joined by Pyro MG to discuss whether or not Toonami's pushing the edginess a little too far. Thank you again for listening. I'm Sketch. Stay gold.
You know what else is up? My dick.
Oh, shut up.
I don't know how you guys do it.
We gotta.
No. Firecrouch is the one that says it. That's why I said that.
But this is we're here to talk about Toonami.
Not John's dick.
No, god damn it, that's not what I was. I hate you guys. I hate you all.
All right, let's get this show on the road.
Right.
Jason DeMarco will not be intimidated by criminal threats.
No.
Or ignorant threat, as it were. Now, in regards to Toonami kill Toonami. Toonami kill Toonami.
Yeah, I mean, you had Animaniacs and even Freakazoid and stuff like that.
You know what I've never understood is like the mentality, like why it's such a problem to have something that's traditionally animated and non-digital. Why is it an issue if it's a non-digital animation? Like, is it really that off-putting?
Wait, what does that have to do with this?
Because the reason why I'm putting that up is like it's a comment like about old cartoons like versus new cartoons, and like why like you don't see a lot of old stuff getting picked up onto the block and whatnot because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mainly because it looks old to kids. And you're like, what's this old stuff?
But I think it's a misconception that kids won't watch old stuff, because Tom and Jerry has been on for how long? They finally brought back Looney Tunes. I think old cartoons have their place.
But didn't they, like, Cartoon Network hasn't said anything about the Looney Tunes show, have they? It's just kind of been sitting there, and they haven't.
No, the Looney Tunes show is doing well.
Yeah, it's doing well. The second season should be coming along pretty soon.
Oh, I haven't heard anything about it.
Wow, we're getting off topic.
Yeah,
Let me
sorry, that was my fault.